What's going on, everybody? Brian here from Father and Son RC, and tonight what I wanted to do is take you through a quick tour of our collection of vehicles and kind of give you a little bit of background on each one, you know, some of the specs of each one, maybe why I chose that vehicle, so you kind of understand where we're coming from. You'll quickly realize when you see the collection that obviously we're not specific fanboys or supporters of certain brands over others. We do have more vehicles of certain brands over others, but it isn't because we have a hatred or a favoritism. It just tends to work out that way. I like all vehicles for different reasons, and I think a lot of hobbyists are the same way. I mean, there are certainly people who are exclusive to a certain brand and hate others, and I'm not really one of those people. I tend to, again, kind of branch out, and I enjoy driving the different vehicles and experiencing the different manufacturers and to a certain extent putting up with certain nuances or issues that maybe one has over the other. But it is what it is. I mean, you kind of learn and you enjoy the hobby for all the different reasons. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and spin around. I'm going to flip this camera around here real quick and a quick tour of the stuff. So I think I'd like to start off with just saying that this vehicle right here, this is a 2016 Tamiya Blackfoot. This is a reproduction that they did back, obviously, in 2016 of the original 1986 Tamiya Blackfoot, which was Ford branded. This one is not. But really, the Tamiya Blackfoot back in '86 was the first RC that I ever had as an hobby grade, and it really kind of kicked me off on the hobby. And it really was the truck that kind of started me in the right foot, no pun intended. But it really was the rig that kind of did it all for me. And from that point forward, I've been in and out of the hobby over the course of the years. Many years, in fact, obviously, but came back last year, and I've really started to reappreciate the hobby for all the things that it brings to the table, including what I get to experience with my son. So the only real mods I've done to this truck so far is just a full bearing kit. Obviously, it's it's bushings and bearing kind of combination. I do have a second kit that it's unbuilt. It's going to have an MIP diff, kind of a modernized version of the Tamiya Blackfoot, but this one I'm going to kind of keep it as it is and use it as kind of a shelf queen to kind of say, hey, this is the first one that I ever had. Kind of more of a memorial, I guess, if you will. Anyways, so rolling into Sen Racing. So this is the very venerable F450. Just a crazy cool truck. It's really its own animal. Really, there are very few competitors in the marketplace that offer a truck like this one. Get my camera set there. Basically a stock vehicle out of the box RTR. The only thing I've done to this is added a rear locker from their Chaos kind of upgrade department or division, if you will, and then also a rear hitch, trailer hitch. I've added some lighting to it, so I did add some LED lights within the bumper, and then just put a generic Amazon light bar on there just to give it some lighting. So ultimately, I'd like to do probably the 110 hot rod, the rod shop, his front grille, maybe some lights within the mirrors, kind of make it up a little bit nicer. But it'll be kind of a shelf, not a shelf queen, but it is to a certain extent. I also did plasti dip the rear bed, so it has kind of a bed liner approach with a box. So kind of giving it that nice little look there. All right, moving on. So Red Cat. So I did mention I didn't play favorites, but I do to a certain extent. Red Cat, we do have a lot of Red Cats, partly because they are very price point. Whoop, my camera is going all over the place today. Does not want to cooperate with me. Anyways, we do have a lot of Red Cats. You'll see that here shortly, but they are very affordable. I know they get a bit of a bad rap as being a brand that was rebranding, pre-existing product. It wasn't really their own designs, but they have definitely started to be kind of part ways of that with the Gen 8s, the Lowrider. I mean, a lot of the new products that are coming out in the marketplace are their own designs. Gen 7 is a rebranded product to a certain extent, but it is a great vehicle. It really is. This is really, honestly, probably the vehicle I use the most out of any of the other RCs. When I go to grab one off the shelf to go out and just drive, this is the truck that I tend to grab. It works really well. I mean, this has got a Hobbywing Fusion 1800 kV ESC motor combo, 30 kV or 30 kg steering servo, steel CVD drive shafts. It's got an all aluminum and metal gear transmission from SCX 10.2. And then it's got some RC all-wheel drive aftermarket bumpers. It's got a Endure front winch. I just put these Pitbull Rock Beasts on it. So it's a great truck. It's really well set up. It works well for me, and I really enjoy driving it. So it does get a lot of attention and action. All right, moving on. There it is, Traxxas. Can't have a collection without a TRX4 Sport. So this is really a great rig. This was actually the second hobby grade rig that I purchased last year when I kind of got back into the hobby. The first one was a 124 scale Kyosho Mini Z Suzuki Jimny. So this was really the first kind of 110 scale crawler that got me back into it, and it is awesome. I mean, if you guys have driven one of these or own one or have seen people drive them, they are just so bomb proof. They work incredibly well. They're very well built. It's the most solid RC vehicle out of any of the trucks in my collection by a mile. It really is. It is super solid. It is bomb proof. And when a lot of other reviewers have said, when you get somebody who's new to the hobby and they want to drive with you, this is the truck you give them, because you're not going to have them break it. The other ones are a little more fragile, I would say, and this one just tends to be the most bomb-proof vehicle in the bunch. All right, moving on. SCX 10.2 Jeep Cherokee. Another fantastic, awesome rig. I mean, it really is. And honestly, I'm sure people are going to maybe disagree with me, but in many ways, I actually like this truck over the SCX 10.3. It's a little more simple. It's lighter. It's definitely more nimble. It's not nearly as top heavy as the SCX 10.3 is, particularly the Gladiator, which is what we own. And honestly, I really enjoy driving it. I don't tend to favor all the trinkets that come on the 10.3 with the dig and the 2-speed, which is, in my opinion, kind of useless. This truck really is just bare bones. Let's get out and crawl, and I really enjoy it. I did change out the tires. It's got, Patagonia, like a 4.1 RC four-wheel drive Milestar Patagonias on it. Aftermarket wheels, like Enduro wheels. It's got that same transmission that I put in the Gen 7 Pro, the all aluminum with steel gears. It's got a 1080 ESC. It's got a Holmes Hobby 550 Trailmaster Sport 21-turn motor, and just a solid truck. I mean, it really works well. It goes where I need it to go. It's obviously not the most capable with the smaller tires, but it works really, really well. All right, moving on to our friends in South Korea. G-Made. So this is my first and only G-Made. It's a cool rig. This is actually a build kit that I picked up earlier this year, I think in the spring, and it's a great truck. It really is. It works really, really well. It comes with overdrive in the front diff out of the box. This was a challenging build, to say the least. Their parts labeling and kind of their layout is a little interesting, let's put it that way. But once it goes together, the truck is bomb-proof. It works incredibly well. It drives really well. And it's something different, I mentioned that. I like to branch out and try new things and try different brands, and I'm not disappointed, I will say. It doesn't get a ton of action, but it's also, the parts are not as readily available. So if there is a potential issue, it is hard to get stuff for them. I just recently found an LED light for the bumper after searching for 3 months. So, it is a challenge to get stuff for it. And that's the only thing I'd say is a kind of a cautionary tale is, be mindful of the fact that they are not as heavily distributed as obviously Traxxas or Axial. But don't run away from it just because of that. It certainly is a cool truck that I think deserves some attention, and I think more people need to look at them. So, and now they've got a pickup truck they just came out with based on this same GSO2 chassis. But great truck. I did change out the shocks to 100 mil travel, so it's got a little more travel. That's the only limiting factor. That 90 mil travel shocks in this truck, it's a little stiff. It doesn't like to flex a ton. So 100 mil shocks. They're internal spring, just basic, Amazon deals, and they actually work really well. And that's actually woken that truck up a little bit more, and it's gotten a little more active in the suspension department. Yeah, there you go. So that's G-Made Buffalo GSO2. All right, so let's get down here. Let me move this guy out of the way real quickly. Can't have a collection without a Tamiya Clodbuster. I mean, come on, give me a break. Everybody's got to have a Clodbuster. This is the black edition. This is gosh, I've had so many different releases of Tamiya trucks over the years.
I had an original Clodbuster back in the 80s and, well, actually it was early 90s as a matter of fact. I kind of skipped, I didn't get the first ones, but back in the 90s, had a Clodbuster and loved that truck. I mean, they're actually a bit horrible to drive, but they're fun, they're goofy, they bounce around. The steering is absolutely horrendous. They're not fast, but they are the 80s, typical 80s monster truck, right? They bounce around, this thing will put a smile on your face. Even if it's not ultra performance, which it certainly is not, it's a great truck, it's fun, and you gotta have one in your collection. So we got one. There you go, Black Edition Clodbuster from Tamiya. All right, so Red Cat, this is my son Samuel. So actually I bought this truck myself, and he loves red. And you know, it's the entry-level Red Cat Gen 7 in the family, so he now kind of owns this truck. He kind of calls it his own, so we kind of set it up for him, and he drives this one pretty much all the time. It's mostly bone stock. You know, I put a roof rack on it, light bar, and a winch on the front for him, and that's pretty much where it's left. But he drives the heck out of this thing. He really does, and he beats on it really hard. I did update the front axle to CVD shafts from the dog bones, and that certainly is kind of taken away some of the Achilles heel of the truck, and it drives well and it works really well. So there you go, Gen 7. All right, so moving on to the slightly lesser expensive spectrum. So we got a couple of WPL D12s. I'm a huge fan of Suzuki's. If you've seen my my Instagram page, I had a Samurai and a Sidekick that were both lifted with suspension lifts and lockers and all kinds of fun off-road goodies. And Suzuki's, we also had normal pedestrian Suzuki cars in the family when they were still in the States selling vehicles. So Suzuki has kind of a soft spot in my heart. And we saw these things, and you know what? You got to have a couple little K trucks. They're cool, and they fit. You can fit so many of those things on a trailer. We actually get two of them side by side. We probably could get a third one in there if we wanted to. Anyways, a couple of those guys. We got lighting kits on them. I've got an aftermarket, updated steel axle and drive shaft. My son's got some updated control arms because he blew out the first pair that were on there. He's a pretty tough driver. You definitely can put him through the ringer. So, anyways, WPL D12s. Going into MST. So this was my first MST and my only MST. I've never had really any experience with the brand. They, much like G-Mate, are kind of an unknown in the US. They're starting to make inroads, but this is their MST CFX in the new Jimny body. It's a cool little truck. It is definitely small, and certainly when you compare it against something like an F450, I mean, goodness gracious, this thing is like baby toy compared to that truck, but it is true to scale. Jimnys are not big in 1-to-1 scale, so it is representative of how they actually are. The truck's pretty much stock with the exception of a lighting kit. You know, it's got turn signals and all that stuff. I did put a small little light bar in the front, and I did change out the tires. The tires on the truck aren't that great. They're pretty hard. So these are RC four-wheel drive Falcon Wild Peak ATs with just some 1.5 Steely beadlock wheels, just for kind of scale appearances, but it works great. The only thing I would say about this truck is it is geared from the factory a little tall, so it doesn't have a ton of low speed control, but that's certainly a gearing change. I can change up the pinion and get a little bit more low speed out of it, but all in all, it works really well. It's a cool truck, and it's certainly scale, and it's a great looking body. I mean, it's got a lot of details. I did put a CC hand, so some details, like it doesn't come with the Suzuki branding on it, but I did do that. So I put the Suzuki stuff in the back, the Jimny and the little Rhino on there, and all that good stuff. So it's a cool little truck, and it's neat to have something different like that. WL Toys is in the house representing 124019. So this is kind of all the rage buggy, the kind of the deal of the century, and it really is a cool buggy. For under like 100 and something bucks, $120. It's a smoking deal. It really is. It performs really well. It's got some amazing components on it. I mean, it's all aluminum shocks. I actually put these aftermarket aluminum wheels on it with tires. They were like $25 on Amazon. Craziness. And then what I did do change on this comes with typically 5-wire servo and ESC integrated combo. So this, I actually pulled all that stuff out, put a micro servo in it with 3-wire. It's got a 1080 ESC with just a Red Cat 550 motor out of like one of the crawlers that I had. So that got a boost in kind of modulation and performance just right out of the box. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty much stock.
Alrighty, cruising on over to the WL Toys continuation here. So the 124018, everyone's got to have one of these things. They're super cheap, they're super burly, they work unbelievably well, and they're cheap. They're like $100. I mean, come on. So the only thing I changed on this thing, it's got aluminum shocks, it's got an adjustable motor plate, so you can change your pinions. And then I pulled the tires off the MST Jimny, and those are on here because these tires are absolute garbage. They are rock hard, and if you want to drift with it, that's great because they don't have any traction. So they will slide on anything. But if you want it to actually grip something, then you need to change out those tires pretty quick. All right, the Danchi Red Rock. So I technically call this a Red Cat because it is. It's an awesome little crawler, $129. Four-wheel steering. You got multi-mode steering, so you can crab walk. You can rear steer only, front steer only, four-wheel steer. It's dual 380 motors on the axles with, obviously the servos on axles as well. It's got a pretty low CG. The tires that come on these things are horrendous. So I did put some 2.2 kind of aftermarket without foam because this thing's really, really light. But other than that, it's basically stock. It's a good little truck, and it works well for a basic crawler. All right, going into the crawler range again. So the Everest 10, loosely based off the, well, I guess it's not really loosely based off, but anyways, the axles are very similar to what they use in the Gen 7. So the Everest 10, so this truck, the only mods I've done to this is I've lowered it, so it sits a little lower, it gets the CG down. I put the 2.2 tires off of the Red Cat Wendigo that I have. I did a full-wheel steer conversion, so it's actually, much more easy to maneuver on sections, and it works great. It's got a Power Hobby, I think it's got a Power Hobby motor in it, or did I change that? I can't remember. Yeah, Power Hobby crawler, one of their 5-pole brush crawler motors, so that gives it a little more punch. It's pretty slow out of the box and doesn't have a lot of wheel speed, but going to a different motor, it gives you a little more punch, and you can kind of bump out of stuff if you need to bump over an obstacle or, ramp out of something. So that is definitely a benefit to do that. Keeping on with the WL Toys again, so the kind of the brother or sister, if you will, to the 124018 is this guy, and I can't remember what the heck the name of it is. It's like 124019, or I can't remember. Anyways, this guy, so that's basically like the stadium truck version of the buggy. Nothing really needs to be said there. It's got the rock hard stock tires on it, and I haven't driven it much, but it is fun, and they're cheap. Alrighty, so rolling back into Tamiya again. So the TT02 rally car. This is the Subaru Impreza rally car. I think it's 99 Monte Carlo, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, this guy was a builder's kit, so I put this together. I did the mica blue from the Bruiser in this with some metal flake. It's running a 1060 ESC. What did I do for motor? I can't remember what I did for motor anymore. It's got one of the crawler motors in it, the 5 poles. Yeah, and it's basically stock for the rest of it. Yeah, I'm going to do some suspension mods on it to get some clearance and get a little more lift out of it, because it does get hung up pretty quickly. But it's great on our rally course, that dirt section on the trail that I talked about. Anyways, there you go. All right, that was the first truck I bought, was right there. Back last year when I kind of got back into the hobby again, was the Kyosho Mini Z, the 124 scale. It's a cool little truck. It is not the most capable of the mini crawlers, but it is the coolest looking by far. By a million miles. It is the most scale looking rig. So if you're chasing more of a scale look, less of a performance look, then this is the one to go to. That right there, let me get this cord out of your way. That is really where you go for performance, is the SCX 24s, all of them. The Chevy truck is actually probably the most capable, followed by the JLU, and then this guy is probably the least capable, but still very capable, only because the cage adds a little bit of weight, so it's a little more top heavy than some of the others, but very capable either way out of the box. And those are the most capable of the mini crawlers at this point still. All right, so we got a trailer down there. Not a ton to talk about there, but I did add, let's see here. It's got I put a winch on it, so it's got you can pull stuff onto the trailer. It's got a lighting. Yeah, it's got lights on it, so you can do steady or flashing. A cool little trailer, and it wasn't too expensive. It was like $120 or something. All right, let's go up to the top here. So back on the Red Cat Bandit, our bandwagon there, the Gen 8 Axe edition, super cool truck. The Hobby Wing axe system is incredible.
You know, that truck is unbelievably spec'd out of the box, and there really is very little comparison from any other manufacturer that specifies a truck the way they did. So kudos to Red Cat, and that is also one of my favorite trucks. That International Scout is a cool rig. Oh, and then the only thing I did on that was just some Goodyear MTRs from RC Fuel Drive with some steel beadlocks, and then the simulated worn hubs. I did some, you know, some of the aftermarket CC Hand Rally decals and Scout 2 and that kind of stuff, just to give it a little more technical. And I did a bunch of interior details, so it's got like a you know, pine tree hanging from the rear view mirror. It's got a cell phone on the dash. It's got a CB radio. There's a bunch of stuff in the back. You know, it's a cool little scaled rig. It's got a Vanquish front bumper with a integrated servo winch mount. So it's got a there you go. HGP 407, I think that's right. That is the Tamiya Bruiser clone that is coming out of China for a fraction of the cost. The Bruiser was another truck that I lusted after seeing one in the hobby shop. It was just an absolutely incredible truck. It had the most scale realism of anything I'd ever seen at its time, and to this day, still one of those scale trucks. And I saw this truck, and you know, I guess a lot of people have mixed emotions about buying a copy, you know, a copycat of an original kind of iconic truck within the RC world, and supporting a brand that is basically just literally ripping off something, you know, an intellectual property and a design from another company. But you know, it's one of those situations where, you know, I don't know. I did it because I wanted to check it out. So there you go. Anyways, it's a cool truck. I did, you know, I blacked out the wheels. I pulled that chrome. This thing comes horribly it looks horrible. It has like red interior. It's just absolutely an atrocity. So I put a roof rack on it. I pulled that little cap off the back. I put fender extensions on it. I did some Hilux, metal Hilux decals, some, you know, new mirrors. I put a ARB styled front bumper on it. What else did I do? I did a rear aftermarket bumper on it with Bruiser, California license plate with Bruiser. There's the interior I worked on. So I've got some like a carpeted bottom, and I got a cloth covering on the seat. It's still a work in progress, but it's getting there. Cool truck, definitely cool. All right, going into Element World. So the Trail Runner, cool truck. You know, I have mixed emotions about this thing. It's a cool truck, but there are certainly some things I'm not a fan of. I don't like how they've attached all the let's call them the accoutrements. So, you know, every door panel, there's these little clips, these plastic clips that press onto little pins. And within the first drive, I lost the rear spoiler. I lost the rear bumper cover. I lost a fender. It just all this stuff falling off of it. It was horrendous, to the point where I actually cut the rear bumper off and put a Vanquish bumper on this one. So, you know, it's good. It is limited by the 1.55, the scale tires, and then the IFS. The IFS really drops this front end really, really low. So you're not getting a ton of clearance under the diff. The solid axle variant, which is here, has a ton more clearance, even in the same size tire. So, you know, it's cool, it's scale, but it is not my favorite truck by any means. You know, it works okay, but the solid axle variant is far, far more capable out of the box, and I think is more, I don't know. If I'm going to choose one or the other, I'm always going to go to that one. So a little bit of a disappointment, if I'm honest, with the Trail Runner IFS, but it is what it is. And you're kind of limited on tire size because the fender wells are pretty tight. So there really is not much clearance without cutting to get a bigger tire in there to get some more clearance under the diffs. But it is what it is. The only thing I've done here is I did put a internal or a servo-mounted front winch on it with a winch plate. So, and then an LED, light. I did put this cool 3D printed, which will go on any truck, but 3D printed Kuat rack from Crawlers and Customs. Super cool guy. Makes some unbelievably cool stuff. So check those guys out. Yeah, there you go. Back in staying with Elements. So that's the Enduro Trail Builders kit with a 4Runner body on it. Pretty much as it would come out of the box. I did put some aftermarket bumpers on it. So ARB style kind of front bumper with a front winch. It has a Hobbywing 1080 ESC with a 550 21 turn Trailmaster Sport motor. Great combo. I mean, that is really, honestly, if you're going brush system, that is the one to do. There really is nothing else. End of story. It works so well that really it's kind of the go-to. All right, I think we're getting close to the end here. All right, so let's roll down this guy. So last but certainly not least is the Axial Gladiator SCX 10.3. Cool truck, really is cool. It's capable in many ways that other trucks are not because of the wheelbase. It really does kind of perform well where, like I said, wheelbase is really kind of key, and spacing the front and rear tires out on an obstacle. It is a little more heavy and top heavy than, let's say, the XCX 10.3. There's a lot of stuff going on with it. It's pretty complex in terms of its 2-speed transmission, its dig, the micro servos that come. Well, it only comes with one micro servo, and it comes default with the dig feature. So I'm not a huge fan of dig when it comes to a trail crawler. I mean, I can see it on a rock truck, like a rock buggy, a purpose-built crawler. But when you're using a trail truck, I don't really use it or see it. And quite honestly, it's a pain. It tends to unlock and slip. You get the front end only turns half the time because the servo sticks. Those servos are prone to failure. And the problem is then when you switch it to the 2-speed, the 2-speed is only about a 20% difference in speed. So it really is not a ton. If you go to a like a TRX4, those 2 speeds are dramatically different. There is a discernible difference between first and second. These are not so much. They're negligible. So I locked it out. It's in low. I don't really use high gear because it's really just not. It's useless, to be honest with you. So whatever. But it's a cool truck, and it's gonna get some upgrades more than it has now. But I did put a. It comes with a 540, so I put a 550 21 turn Holmes Hobby Trailmaster Sport in it as well. It's running an aftermarket bumper. I had an aftermarket front bumper on it, but it was sitting pretty low. So I'm gonna look and see what I can find that's a little more appropriate for that. It's got some Baja Design front lights from RC 4-wheel drive. It's got a basic Amazon cheapy light bar on it. So there you go. All right, rolling into the final round here. So another SCX 1024, the JLU Wrangler, great little truck, super light. I got some brass weights at the front, wheels. It's using the BFG crawlers from the truck, the C10 truck, I think it is. They're a little smaller in diameter than the Nettos that come on the other trucks, but it's actually pretty cool tire. It still performs really well. All right, so Sam, my son, just got this one for his birthday. That's the Volcano 16 monster truck from Red Cat. Element 24, not a bad little truck, but we'll see. Doesn't perform well as the XX24s, and it's really just an RGT rebranded, but it doesn't do too bad. It's okay. Another Volcano 16, which is mine. Something to play with him when we go out and have fun. And then rolling over to the final round here, going into the water, is our Blackjack 24. Great boat. Really cool. We run this thing on 3S, and it just screams around the pond. So a lot of fun. We'll probably get another boat at some point, but for right now, that is the boat. And we are super pleased with this thing. So anyways, so I think that's... There you go. Woo. Hopefully it didn't take too much time. It's just a quick kind of run through of our collection. And hopefully explains to you, like, to a certain extent, why we did what we do, and there will be more trucks that come. But for now, we're really pleased with what we've got, and we think it's a pretty good collection. It kind of encapsulates and captures most of the major brands and most of the major milestones for performance. There's a couple that we're missing, but we're okay with that. So anyways, if you want to post up in the comments, if you need any more questions or comments on any of the trucks or vehicles you've seen, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer this for you. But if not, I appreciate you watching, and stick around. We're gonna have a lot more fun coming along. All right, take care. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.